recognize that of anything about religion. My mother and dad were fighting about religion. And my mother became a Christian Scientist. And I remember Daddy burning the books, and the only time they ever fought was over religion. And Sunday morning was a nightmare. Because Daddy would take me to church, and Mother wouldn't buy a hat. And in those days, they have what they call antimacassars, and these little doilies.
Yes.
He'd put one on my head. And I would go to church with him. And I'd see the incense, and I didn't know, Mother would not take me to catechism. Okay, but as soon as Daddy left in the morning, my mother would bring out that Science and Health in the Bible. And then Mary Baker Eddy she wrote out these lessons. And you'd read 2 or 3 verses in the Bible, and then you'd go to the Science and Health. And she'd have page numbers, and it would be her interpretation of what the Bible said. Okay, so I grew up having the Word, but then I got this interpretation. And Mary Baker Eddy said, there's no life, truth, intelligence, or substance in matter. All is infinite mind and infinite manifestation. For God is all and all. In other words, there's no sickness. You don't say the names of sick. I never knew what constipation was because I never had heard the words until I became an adult. So when I went to college, there was something in me yearning. I watched these girls go off to church. And the neat thing, they go to lunch. The fella take off to Sunday lunch. And I think that's so nice. So I went to a Unitarian Universal church with my friend Betsy at the time. And so when I got married, I asked the minister to come and he married me because he found out I'd never have a minister.
What ministry was that?
And he was a Universalist, Unitarian Universalist, yeah, Dr. McDowell. And God knew what I needed because I had some wonderful, interesting experiences. When we went in the Army, I got to live with the James family and 2 of the little James girl and all, but I wished I'd known them more then. Then my husband, Willie, you know Willie, he's a rocket scientist, takes me from the ocean and the trees and all that to deserts of New Mexico in 1957. I mean, there was hardly like one road. And I had come from the big city, Portland, Maine, the biggest city, and the ocean and all this. But God had to get me into the desert. And I was miserable. I hated it. It was hot. We had dust storms and so forth. But ultimately, I kept searching and searching and searching for answers. I went to the Unitarian Church. Dr. Tomo went there. All the brainy people went there. So that was exciting. And then one of them died. And they asked me to read something at the funeral. And it was a poem. And the poem was, flower on the wall. Flower on the wall, on the wall, on the wall. Yeah. It made no sense. And that was the last time I went to the church. So anyway, I wandered around in the desert for a long time. And my God was my intellect. And I was a good teacher. And some upstart of a student teacher mouthed off at me in front of some teachers and told me off. And I let such a little bitterness go down in me. I hated that girl. And I went into the bathroom and it was like I was sitting up here looking at myself, just howling with anger. I was so angry. And you know, the Bible says, don't let a root of bitterness go down in you. It'll become an offense to you and all of you around you. And that's exactly what happened. And I went into a deep depression, a suicidal depression. And I just had all I could do to get up and go to school, go to work. Well, I've got to get righted out because I'm old and I've got a lot of, I don't want to take too much time. But an awful lot happened. I helped form the Association for Retired Children, Diana Association for Retired Children, because my neighbor had a retired child. And we got a school going, and actually we moved into the old Missy Park School when we moved into the brand new one. We moved to the Diana Association for Retired Children. We helped founded the Messia, the old theater, and found the theater. And that was going to be my savior, the theater. And so I was in the plays, and I did the vaudeville acts with the big hat and the long gloves and the bustle. And I did one with dressed up like Raggedy Ann and Andy. The boy, he was Andy and I was Raggedy Ann. And we run out on the stage, and he had I was hitting him with my doll or something, and then the people would laugh and stop. And we see, because he had these big long lashes and the freckles. Go tell him, go throw the money up on the stage. So that was fun, but there was an emptiness. And finally, I thought if I got a lead, that emptiness, and I finally did get a lead. And it was Rose and Gypsy. But then, when it was over, curtain calls and all that, I still had that emptiness in me. Well, I was terrified of flying, and my dad had a heart attack. And so I thought, I've got to fly back to Maine. Now, these neighbors that used to be so much fun, like to play cards and do all this stuff, and they started asking us to go to Bible study, to go to prayer meetings. Come to prayer meetings. And they were so much fun. And they used to, now all Colombians go to these prayer meetings. But I went because I was scared of flying. And this is what I love. I walked in the door. It was a Catholic woman's home. Nancy's woman. There was a Catholic priest. Now, my mom had told me Catholics are bad. And the priests just take the money away from all the people. And they worship statues. And so Catholics are bad. And I loved what God did with this because of charismatic Catholics. Nancy was a charismatic Catholic. It's a huge move in the Catholic Church where they were discovering who Jesus is, and they were getting free of this stuff. There was this Catholic priest who was playing. He was the one up in at the Newman Center, if you ever went to Newman Center. And then there was like a gynecologist, Dr. What's his name? Who? He was an Episcopalian. Anyway, he and his wife were there. I'm telling you this because there was a Pentecostal couple. It was Jeff Knight's mom and dad.
Norman and Nancy Knight.
Yes, sitting in there. And there was the colonel and his wife. God knew that I had to see this cross-section of people, of all different stratas of society and different religions. And they were all there, and there was such a spirit of praise and worship. I couldn't get enough of it. And so I asked Nancy to tell me, what do you have? And she sat me down and she gave me some books to read, and then invited me to dinner and for luncheon. And this was after I flew home to Maine and came back. And the luncheon Betty Gibbon was there. There was just a whole combination of wonderful Christian women. And then it was so clear. She said it's a relationship with Jesus. It's not Catholic. It's not Methodist. It's not any of that. It's your relationship with Christ, with Jesus. And I can't tell you, I can't emphasize the change in my life with that. When I recognized what that was, it was not a religion, it was a relationship. I prayed that prayer. I asked the Lord to fill me with His Spirit. I got a kind of a quiet tongue, nothing real dramatic. But then I got on that path that God had prepared for me at a time. And when I look back on my life, I look back down that path, and it's all my people with all people like you, how He knit us all together. And the students I've had, and God has brought so many of them back into my life. Lorena Fierro, it's so precious. And then I had kids, Nora's head of a Glow now in Las Cruces. I had her and her brother in 5th grade, and she was messing with witchcraft. Yeah. And now she's head of Women's Glow because we prayed over her, got rid of that. And it's just, God is just so amazing. And when I look at my life, my marriage, we had our ups and downs, but Christ helped us through that. And my kids have had good lives. They all love the Lord. And one of the radio thing, I love that because when I was in New Mexico, you know, I almost got fired because I taught the kids, this is the day that the Lord has made. And Cisco was terrified that he was going to get fired, and I was going to get fired too. And we didn't. But I taught American history, and you know, anything that's in the Library of Congress at that time, it's legal to have it on the wall in the classroom. There's so much that the Lord can teach you and show you when you're open to Him. So anyhow.
Is that when Woody became a believer at the same time?
Woody and the girls accepted Christ in the spring. I accepted Christ in September of 1974. And that was when, at Christmas time, I asked God for White Christmas.
Her 40th birthday, September of '74.
Yeah. And I said, God, it's so hot and it's so dusty here. I'm so tired of Christmas it's warm. And that morning we got 8 inches of snow.
Very smart.
It was amazing.
He gave you the desires of your heart.
He gave me a lollipop. I was a baby Christian, and yet, you know, I got that. But I'm scattered in my thinking here because it's just too much. It's like this huge smorgasbord of experiences, of people, of opportunity, like the radio. But I couldn't talk out loud about Jesus to my kids in the classroom, but they know that their name is on the prayer list on my desk. You know, their dog's name is on there too when their dog is sick, and this sort of thing. It's a miracle that we didn't get fired. I didn't get fired. Vicky and I were kind of sneaky about Christmas and Halloween. We did a pretty good job of praying through the schools, didn't we? We prayed all